Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby. We are live here in the studio with Nima from Liberis. Nima, how are you doing?
Great, thanks Toby for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Listen, an exciting space. We've been talking about a little bit beforehand about what we're going to be covering today, and I'm genuinely excited about this sort of area. You're doing some fantastic stuff as a business, and we're going to explore that a little bit later on today. It's everyone's favourite topic at the moment, GenAI, isn't it? And smart data sharing, I think, is probably one of the big words that we've been hearing, or big words that we've been hearing over 2025. We're going to dive into that and then to hear a little bit about what's happening in the market and the industry over the course of the next 5 years or so. So a lot to cover in little time. But let's start with a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself and the company.
Of course. So, my name is Nima. I was born in Iran a few years after the revolution, grew up during the war. And from very early age, I was into computers, so naturally studied computer science, moved to the UK back in 2006 to do my master's degree, and then started working for a consultancy for 7 years, and it gave me unique perspective of giving advice to great companies, to companies who wanted to be great, and worked across Europe. And then after that, I joined Babylon Health, which was a super interesting journey of growth. And it was after the IPO that I started looking for the next thing. And I wanted to go somewhere that was doing something good for society. And I wanted to go somewhere that I could give back and then add something to the company. And Liberis came up, a super interesting company. Liberis has been helping small businesses for over 10 years now. And the business is all about giving funding to businesses that are really struggling to get financing from traditional banks. So it has been operating for 10 years, as I mentioned. And the way Liberis works is through partnerships. So we embed our services into platforms that businesses use every day. It could be their card processing portal. It could be a tech marketplace like eBay. And through the platform, we are giving them financing, and we are allowing them to get access to services that typically they find really hard to access from traditional banks.
And it's a really interesting position that you come into as the CPO, the Chief Product Officer in the business. So I want to just rewind to where you said there that you were looking for a company after that sort of IPO at Babylon Health, which is a great story in itself. But coming into this and sort of looking for a company there with purpose. Tell me what sort of how you went through that process and what was it that really stood out?
So it was just talking to companies where definitely purpose-driven. So there are many of them right now. So, but looking at a company where I could add value as well, and I see my skill set as bringing scale. So Liberis definitely had found product market fit. It had a product that merchants absolutely love. And I could see that the difficulty was in getting the product in merchants' hands. So how do we distribute our product? How do we grow in multiple markets? How do we make sure that we are constantly improving the product? And the journey over the last two and a half years has been a journey of transformation.
Exactly.
We went from 5-6 countries to now 15 countries by end of this year, at least 18 countries. We went from 1 product to 3-4 products right now, and then constantly new products coming. So that's where I thought, okay, they have the initial product, they have found product market fit, the merchants, the partners absolutely love product, and I can come in to help with this scale.
Yeah. And that's an exciting scaling story as well from what you're
really
saying.
Exciting,
from what you're saying there. So yeah, let's look at that on its own. I think, in terms of products and in terms of what we've been seeing in the marketplace, there's never been this rate of change that we've seen over probably the last 5 years, actually. Post-pandemic, we've seen such an explosion of opportunity in terms of the tech in the space and the appetite of the space to engage in that technology. It's always been a little bit more reticent as an industry. Banking in general, it's always been a little bit further behind other areas to sort of take on board it. But it feels like right now we're in this perfect sort of stage for it. So as a chief product guy, that's something there which couldn't probably be better for you. But talk us through that sort of journey of change and how banking fits into that over the course of the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating space. And I think it's following the same natural bundling and unbundling phenomenon that we have been seeing in technology. I think as far back as Netscape, it was CEO of Netscape who first said that there are only two ways to make money, bundling or unbundling. And if we look at banking over the last few years, it has been going through unbundling. So many innovative startups, scale-ups, they looked at banks and they looked at different verticals within a bank, and they built billion-dollar businesses by just looking at one vertical. Wise, they just took FX for the beginning. Funding Circle, they took lending. Liberis took a small business lending, and so on and so forth. And you can think of tens of fintechs that started unbundling the banks, which was great for creating really good vertical services. However, it created fragmentation for small businesses, for consumers. So now as a small business, you have to use 5, 6, 7 different fintechs for different services on top of your traditional banks. So now we definitely at Liberis believe that we are at the end of the unbundling era and we are getting into bundling era. And bundling is going to happen on some of the neobanks platforms. We see Revolut is doing really well, Monzo is doing really well, but also tech platforms are placed in a great position to bundle banking services and provide it to their small businesses. So our belief is that all of the banking services are still needed, but instead of going to a traditional bank, you would either go to a neobank or you would use it on your, you would get all of those services on your platform of choice. So if you are an e-commerce merchant on Shopify and eBay, if you're a restaurant, you might get it on Deliveroo or Uber Eats. And Liberis wants to be in a position to provide all of those services to these tech platforms to build the banking service that is personalized, that is there just at the point of need, and reduce the complexity for small businesses.
I mean, there's a lot that to unpack from what you just said there. And as you were talking, it's sort of, there's been people on this show who've talked about this sort of platform economy that we've been building recently, which I think is fascinating. And we're also looking there about this sort of natural digitalization of everyone and how we expect as individuals to have everything friction-free and clear. That's now moving into this same sort of space, right? And as businesses within the area, we want to have something there which is personalised and right to us, and that's where you're seeing the future going, right?
Absolutely, and that is the promise of embedded finance. So we believe that what we can do with use of data, generative AI, lots of other technologies in the background is enabling the frictionless 3-4 click journey for financing in your platform of choice. And we know that customer expectations are rising, so the small business owner is using Amazon for their packages, they're using Uber, they expect the same level of service from their banking provider as well. And that's what we can do.
So haven't necessarily been having that.
No, they haven't. And when you actually look at across Europe where we are very active, you see the fragmentation in the journey, and you see that actually in the UK, it's not too bad. When you look at Europe, there's still a lot of room for change, and that's where we think we get our license to operate in these countries by adding to the local economy, by helping the small businesses, by preserving jobs, by creating new jobs, and all of that comes from giving a frictionless experience at the point of need. So if you want to expand your business and then you start thinking about the long process of getting financing, many people just stop and give up. So we want to be in a position that we give all the tools that you need few clicks away, so you can really think about your business, you can think about the jobs that you're creating, rather than about the process, form filling, document uploading that you usually have to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess this sort of scales into this sort of globalization of the business and the multiple countries that you start to move in now.
Yeah.
And that brings complexity to the product as well.
Yeah, it brings a lot of complexity into the product, but I see it as a competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
So definitely, I don't think the complexity goes anywhere. It just moves from one place to another, and we try to capture it and then encapsulate it in our system. So then using this platform, we can just grow out the product in more and more countries. And this meant that I talked about the transformation journey in the last 2.5 years. So in 2023, we had to make a decision that we don't want to go to any new countries, just to invest in the platform, just to make sure that we build the right tools and we optimize the platform for being able to expand it to new countries. And 2024, it was 5 countries. This year is going to be 3 or 4 countries. And now we built the muscle to go into a new country, understand the regulation, understand the complexities, and add it to our platform and roll out a product for our customers really easily.
I love the way you said that. I think it's so important that sometimes people sort of, without being patronising, they try and run before they can walk a little bit in these sort of things and try and do everything very quickly. But I like the fact that this has been very considered and based on process. And let's move slowly to move quickly. It seems to be the sort of order of play with it. And speaking of quickly, look, there's a hell of a lot of advancement that we've been able to see recently with GenAI. You touched on it earlier on. There is a wealth of opportunity, and everyone's sort of there and investing and thinking and playing and probing and working out what it can actually look like. And what we do know is it's going to change the face of products within this space non-stop. And I know that's something which you've been looking at. So tell us a little bit about how you're utilising GenAI, what it means, and how that takes you further forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology that I'm personally very excited about, and at Liberis we are also super excited about. And we went through a journey of discovery on GenAI. So initially it was all about
very quickly.
Very similar to probably many other companies. It was all about personal productivity and enabling our employees to use these tools to become better and faster and quicker and more productive at their jobs. The second era for us was looking at different processes and specialized roles. So how can we use GenAI in customer service, for example? How can we use GenAI to understand call transcripts from calls with the small businesses and drive insights to improve our process, to build a better product, and making sure that in all the different verticals within the organization we are using GenAI. And the third phase that we are in now, right now, is all about building products. And we are using GenAI in two areas to build a better experience for our merchants. Number one is for majority of our deals, for majority of the merchants that we fund, we don't need any documentation. So most of them can go through without documentation. The ones where we need documentation, they had to wait for a human to look at these documents, to verify these documents. Using GenAI, we can easily understand, verify, extract information. So the journey that we had for document upload that you had to wait a few hours, that becomes instant. So that's a small improvement in the journey for what I would call unhappy path. Happy path, you shouldn't even need documentation, you should just go through. The other product where I'm super excited about is something that we've just released. It's an underwriting agent. So at Liberis, using traditional AI, 85% of credit decisioning credit decisions are already automated. So we don't need to have a human in the loop. 15% of complex cases, they do need a human. And these are by definition very complex, lots of documents to review, lots of different portals to check, lots of reports to pull to make a decision, and these are for large deals, which means that as a small business, you still have to wait for a few hours for a human decision. And we built this agent called Ada. What Ada does is looking at all these different documents, looking at all these different data points instantly, and it taps into Liberis' knowledge base, which has thousands of deals over the years, and makes a quick underwriting decision. And this means that the 15% of complex cases are now being handled much quicker. But the important point is we still have humans in the loop. So this is not a human versus AI conversation. This is a human plus AI conversation. So we are making our very valued employees much more productive. They learn from the AI. They give feedback to the AI. So interestingly, the AI is learning from them as well. And it's created this really interesting feedback loop that both sides are improving each other. And we ran a really interesting experiment with this product. So it's trained on thousands of deals, as I mentioned, but we also fed it the deals that our manual underwriters approved. And then these deals went on to default. And we asked the AI, go and look at these deals to see what did we miss. And it was really interesting. So it found these themes that we've been consistently missing, these human biases that we had built into the system. And it was able to create a course for our underwriters to say, okay, like here are the things that you should look for that you usually miss. So this is the kind of thing that I talk about when I say like human plus AI and constantly raising the bar for each other. So super exciting. And we have a pipeline of more and more agents to come out and help with the process of funding and then eventually providing banking services to our small businesses.
I think it's brilliant. And I also think that human plus AI is the important part of that, because I think when you're talking about underwriting, it's the sort of last bastion of adoption of technology in certain instances, isn't it? It hasn't been tremendously welcoming of various tech innovation. But if you look at that and think of what it can do and actually create that narrative that this is about making things easier, I'd imagine from the SME place that part of the big frustration is the time of that underwriting process. And this has the ability there to recognise that this is about, absolute human augmentation, about making things easier, about making people more productive. And that productivity gain, I speak about this a lot on this show, is to me, we're in this this ever increasing area of pressure in business. And that ever increasing area is costs are rising, and it's even more and more difficult to get that margin on every single cost which you're dealing with. So the only thing you can really do is there's only so much cost cutting you can get to before there's no way of functioning as a business. So the only thing you can do is to increase the productivity per employee and make people better. And that to me is the really exciting part of where you can see GenAI, and it seems exactly where the product's based, right?
Absolutely, and then also making sure that the 15% of merchants who are going through the unhappy path get a journey that is as good as the 85%. Still, instantly, they get a decision, and then everything else in our platform is automated as well. And then minutes later, you get a notification that the funding that you wanted is in your account. So very different to the experience of a few years ago, where it would take weeks, if not months, to secure funding for your business.
Well, you look at that 15% in particular, and you think about, right, if they're in that complex area, let's call it, the stress around that for an SME at the same sort of time is immense.
Yep.
And so the tape that you can cut out and doing all that sort of stuff is just a game changer for people in that sort of space.
And these are typically bigger businesses with more complex operations, which means that eventually you're helping creating more jobs, preserving more jobs as well.
That narrative doesn't get quite the airtime as the same one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's absolutely right. It's a shift. It's a job shift as opposed to a job reduction piece, and that's what that I think is a really exciting thing, and a job enhancement on the other side of it. More from everyone, easier work for everyone. It becomes it's so exciting. I think about what can happen within it. Within GenAI, the sort of the narrative has been that it's irrelevant without data, and you have to get the data right to get the GenAI really utilising it at the right sort of place. I know you guys have spoken about 2025 and it being the year of data sharing. We know about smart data sharing being pivotal to all of this. So where do you sit in that, and how does it come?
Yeah, so and I agree. So data is the key ingredient in making use of GenAI, and the agent example that I gave you is trained using thousands of deals, and we see that this is a moat for Liberis. So it's not as easy as I'm going to go and take one of these LLMs and play with it and create an agent. And same dynamics come into play when we are designing products for our merchants. So as an embedded finance provider, we are expert in financing. We are not expert in the last mile of customer journey. And we believe that if you are eBay, you know the needs of your sellers best. If you are Deliveroo, you know the needs of restaurants best. So how do we combine this finance expertise with your expertise about your customers and merchants and create a custom and bespoke product that is helping them achieve their goals? And that's where smart data sharing comes into play. So within the journey, these platforms are able to share all the details that we need for underwriting a merchant just at the right time when the merchants are giving consent. So that's the first piece. Then they can share all the additional points that they hold on the small businesses. So what is your Google review rating? What is your rate of returns on orders? And all of this comes into play into our underwriting, into our decisioning around how to personalize the product. And combination of finance expertise and the expertise from our customers allow us to create something that is very bespoke for the group of merchants that we are serving for each partner in each country.
That bespoke piece is another part of it, isn't it? It's just so important not to have this sort of one-size-fits-all piece, but actually utilising this sort of data, this technology, we're able to provide something that's really genuinely bespoke to people, which makes everything so much more friction-free, user-friendly. The UX becomes that much better. It's a great situation to be in. And I know there's also, as we talk about the evolving marketplace, you guys are talking a lot about the collaboration between fintechs and banks. What does that look like?
We are working with quite a few banks across different countries, and sometimes it's the funding facility that is coming to banks. Sometimes it's the services that we are aggregating. It's coming from the banks, and they have a lot of valuable assets, a lot of experience. We are really good at getting those assets and experiences and surface it to end customers through platforms. So we see ourselves sitting in between technology platforms like eBay and banks and play the part of aggregator to pick and choose the right services for the merchants of, let's say, eBay or any of other customers that we have.
And I think there's, when you come back to that, that's sort of, you mentioned eBay, you've mentioned some of the big platforms, big tech throughout all of this. And you've touched on this before, but that sort of cross-industry learning, and I find this fascinating because this is another one of my soapboxes I speak about beforehand. I mentioned it earlier on that I think that the finance space has been slower to adopt technology than other areas, and particularly in retail. Particularly in online retail, e-commerce, where we look at that sort of area and think, right, there's been so much innovation in that sort of space at such a pace. Then you look at it sort of almost with these sort of green eyes from across the from the financial industry about what could be done and what could be shared. And I think this has been an industry which doesn't like to share its homework for a long time. It's been very protective. It's been very secretive. It hasn't liked to share. It hasn't liked to cross-pollinate. Maybe the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a lot more of that. We've seen banks collaborating. We've seen innovation hubs. We've seen, as you say before, fintechs and banks getting a lot closer rather than it being the 15 years ago we were talking about the war between the two and which was going to win, fintech or banking. And it evolved. Both of them evolved and actually collaborated. There's now this opportunity as well for big tech and other areas to do this cross-industry learning from both sides, because at various stages we've been hearing about Apple and Amazon competing with banks. It looks again like there's fusion opportunity here as well. Where do you sit on that argument?
Yeah, so definitely we believe that there is big room for improving collaboration between all the parties that we talked about, the platforms, the banks, the fintechs, and also applying the learnings that we have from these very different groups of customers to each other. So we are in a unique position that we are serving offline merchants, the coffee shop around the corner from you. We are serving online merchants. We are serving different types of merchants in many different countries. And sometimes you see opportunities to take learnings from one group and apply it to another one. So just to give you an example, because we have access to revenue data, we can see what the impact of ad spend for e-commerce merchants. We can see that if you spend $1,000 on advertisement, it comes back in form of increased revenue. This is how much it will add to your bottom line. So first of all, we take that, apply it to all of our online merchants. But then the interesting question is, how would you apply that to an offline business? And then you can think about the butcher shop that spends on advertisement on Google Maps and brings in new customers. And then you can correlate how ad spend in an online business and offline business could help increase revenue. So I think in summary, it's just like at two stages or two different layers. One is the layer of platforms, banks, fintechs, sharing the learnings, sharing the opportunities with each other. And the next level is all about end customers. How do we apply learnings from one group to another and improve the product that we have for each group?
It's an exciting time at the moment. I'm going to finish off by sort of moving to something which I think is almost impossible right now, but I'm going to give you the flow through it. We've lived through a period of enormous volatility over the last few years. We've also lived through a period alongside that sort of economic volatility and social volatility. We've come up with this period of time where there's never been such rapid tech innovation at the same sort of stage. So anyone looking over, I feel sorry for economists at the moment trying to predict anything, but I also like to think further forward. And I know as a chief product officer, that's going to be very much in your wheelhouse. So if you look at the industry at this sort of time where we're sat there and seeing this sort of, change, evolution, revolution in some sort of ways. What does the 5-year outlook look like for the industry in your thing, and how does it feed into your hypothesis?
Yeah, great and challenging question, as you say. I'm going to try my best. But as I said, I'm very bullish on GenAI and what it can do for economy across different industries. So I'm going to try and just limit it to the world of finance and what we might expect from the advancements in the next few years. So thinking about LLMs, GenAI, at the most basic level, these are prediction algorithms. So you feed it some text, you train it on text, it generates the next token. You train it on images, it can generate a new image, on video, and so on and so forth. Interestingly, I was reading about an LLM that they trained on DNA sequences of different creatures, and now you can ask a question of, here are the conditions on Mars, go and predict a plant that can grow on Mars, and it gives you a sequence, so we don't know if it works. So now applying the same thinking to finance, when you think about our funding products, at the moment, they are a financial product construct. They have a risk appetite, they have some sort of yield that we want to take, they have many, many different variables, and we have to sit down and design these. But imagine a world that you can train an LLM on all of these different constructs and all of these different variables, and then just give it the yield that you want to get from the investment that you have, plus all the merchant data, and say for every single merchant, go and design a personalized product construct that might have not existed before. So I think that's the future of personalization. So at the moment, still when we talk about personalization, it's all about segmentation and bucketing. Yeah. It's not truly personalized. So can we unlock that truly personalized experience in 5 years? I hope so. Yeah.
I mean, if there's ever a time to do it, it's now, right? And if you think about, going back to segmentation and such, I think there's been such evolution in there, and that's without sort of the rapid pace that we've seen through GenAI recently. I know there's been sort of a lot of data that's come into it, and AI is not a new thing necessarily, but I think this sort of time now where we can really do it, and everyone's focus being on it, that to me is an incredibly exciting piece. So let's finish with the last thing, Liberis itself. What do we expect to see? What's exciting?
So hopefully many, many more products. As I said, we've been on this journey of exploring different opportunities with our merchants. But for us, success is to have a product for every single merchant on every single partner platform that we have in every single country. That's the journey that we are on, and hopefully we'll get there in the next couple of years.
It's a grand dream, isn't it? I like the sound of it. So if people want to hear more about that, if they want to get in touch, if they want to reach out, what's the best way to get in touch?
So LinkedIn and Twitter. So you can search me on LinkedIn, and I'm Nima on Twitter, and more active in reading than writing, but definitely respond to all the messages.
Very good. Well, listen, lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining us. Cheers. And thank you all for watching. We will see you soon on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.